Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's guest, but we want to give a shout out to our partners, the Florida Coaches Coalition, Vital Signs Wall of Fame, We Coach, and the global community of women in high school sports. You've heard me say before, these are four great organizations that you should really have in your network. And now, don't hit that fast forward button. Stay with us for the next 3 minutes. We're going to give our sponsors a shout out. These are companies that I used as an athletic director or as a coach. You should be using them too. Here we go. We want to thank Vital Signs Wall of Fame for their support. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards or your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Make sure you mention this podcast. It's also a great way to showcase your school's diverse history and your proudest moments. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com. Start creating world-class content for your school's social media channel. Gipper is the official social media graphics solution for the podcast. And if you go there, make sure you mention the podcast. Their team is going to show you how you can start celebrating your athletes and promoting your teams using the Gipper platform. It's so easy, even I can do it. Go to Gipper.com, start creating world-class content in seconds for your school's social media channel. We'd like to thank Hometown Ticketing for their support. Hometown Ticketing is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. And if you go to hometownticketing.com, their staff is going to show you how to set up and sell your tickets online. It's digital ticketing that offers more. Go to hometownticketing.com to get started. We'd like to say thanks to Sideline Interactive indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and schedule a live web demo to see their scoreboards and their indoor score tables in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made as an athletic director. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Check out their great products today. We also want to say thanks to Home Campus. Go to homecampus.com. They're the exclusive high school and state association management platform for us. It's also your one-stop platform for things like schedules, student-athlete eligibility and clearance, and a whole lot more. As an athletic director, I used Home Campus every single day, and it was just great. And the Home Campus staff was great to work with too. To get started, all you have to do is go to homecampus.com. That's homecampus.com. We'd like to thank Snap Mobile for their support. Go to snapraise.com. That's the website, SnapRaise. Check out their entire suite of platforms designed to help you do your job better. If you're looking for a fundraising platform, stop right here. SnapRaise is hands down the best one out there, but there's a lot more. Go to snapraise.com. Check out all their platforms. That's snapraise.com. We want to thank Huddle for their support. Go to huddle.com and change the way you see the game. As a football coach, I used Huddle, but as an athletic director, I made sure our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided that helped them coach our kids up to their highest level. Once again, go to huddle.com. See why we believe in sports and teams believe in Huddle. Join the 8 million users. Turn your school into a Huddle school. And we want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. At my schools, we use surveys for just about everything: teachers, coaches, kids, and parents. And the information that came back was almost always over the top positive, and it'll be the same for you. But the surveys will also connect you to that squeaky wheel parent. And that's a tremendously valuable tool to have when you're talking with that frustrated parent or your principal or your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of your players and your parents. That's athleticsurveys.com. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD. We are approaching our 500th interview over the course of about 3.5 years. And as part of our Legends series, very excited for a guest today. Very familiar name in Florida and probably even nationwide. Our guest is Michael Stutzke. Michael is retired Hall of Fame athletic director here in Florida. He's a certified master athletic administrator, longtime AD, longtime member of the LTI teaching faculty. And we're excited to hear what he has to share. So, Michael Stutzke, welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
Thank you very much, Jake.
You and I connected, I would say casually a few times. You actually taught a couple of the LTI courses that I took, both as I was getting my own CMAA and even afterwards, just for professional development. Always, very much in demand for our FIAAA conference. But let's go ahead and jump right in. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us that quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up, maybe take us through your own high school days. Then we'll take a break, and then we'll come back and hear more about your life. But what's the Michael Stutzke origin story?
I was born in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, and spent the first 12 years of my life there before my family moved to Florida. I graduated from Vero Beach High School, two-sport athlete, cross country and track. Went on to Villanova University, where I earned my bachelor's degree. I was not talented enough to be on the Villanova track team or cross country team. One of my classmates, class of 76, was Eamon Coughlin, who most of us know went on to win Olympic gold. So my interest in sports has always been there. It's been good to me. And that brought me to graduating from college, where I graduated, was commissioned in the Marine Corps. When I finished in the Marine Corps, I went into business, Fortune 500 companies in the metropolitan New York area before moving to Florida and taking over a family citrus business. So that's the short. If I go back to high school, like I mentioned, track and cross country, passionate about it. I was coached by the legendary Bill Wilson, and that shaped my coaching style, my overall perspective of athletics at an early age.
I'm just a couple of years younger than you, but you mentioned Villanova track and field. You mentioned even Coughlin. I mean, for me as a kid growing up, Marty LaCory, certainly, very famous names. Take our listeners, most of whom are much younger than both of us, maybe back to those days. Talk about the impact that and the imprint maybe that Villanova track and running had on America back then.
Absolutely. The legendary coach at Villanova was Jumbo Elliott, and his assistant coach was a gentleman by the name of Jack Pyra, who Bill Wilson and yours truly, we were in communication with him my senior year in high school. And he shared with me that they had a very good group of young men from Ireland that had been coming over to Villanova and really had set the tone for the outstanding program that they had, let's just say from the early 60s, leading right up to 1972. You mentioned Marty LaCory. He was a high school idol of mine. And so, the idea of going back to the Philadelphia area where my family is from and possibly running for Villanova was a dream. So when I got to Villanova, I went out for the team. And I remember very well that very first day of practice, we went out for a 10-mile run. And for the first 5 miles, all of us were grouped together very tightly. And it's like someone flipped a switch. And about 9 of those guys, 7 of which were from Ireland, just kind of pulled away. And the writing was so profoundly in front of me that no matter how good I thought I might have been at the high school level in Florida, I was really no match for the caliber of athlete, in this case, a runner, that Villanova was attracting. So I became a true blue Villanova Wildcat as a spectator. and was always very proud of what the university has accomplished in track and field and other sports over the years. But I think it is important for young people to recognize that you might have the dream, but you got to have the talent to go with it in order to move to that next level.
Yeah, and again, for our younger listeners, those names that Michael's mentioning, Mario LaCour, Eamon Coughlin, I mean, world class, Olympian runners. Just an honor to be in a workout with those guys.
Yeah.
You mentioned that when you graduated from school, you entered the Marine Corps. Thank you for your service. Again, from a historical perspective, what was going on back in those days? What are some of your memories of your stint with the Marines?
Mm. I wish I could say that they were 100% positive. In the early 70s, and at the time of my graduation, the Vietnam War had just ended, and that was April of 75, if I'm not mistaken. So it wasn't really popular to be in the service. Um, Proud to be in uniform, and coming from a family with a long tradition of serving, it was the natural thing to do. But it was very difficult for, uh, in the case of officers coming back from Vietnam, having served so valiantly, to have a group coming in that was not going to experience what they were going to be trained to do, and yet they had been through it all. And so I think it was an interesting time in the United States military, the late 70s. And, I found it to be extremely rewarding. I just recently reconnected with my company commander, who's 94 years of age. I have fond memories and a wonderful learning experience, but I also recognize that that generation of military personnel came back to a country very divided, and it was difficult for many of them to transition back.
Yeah, again, I graduated from high school in 75, I was in college. So again, a little bit younger, just a couple years younger than you, but, very much remember that. And again, thank you for your service. We're going to go and take our first break. For our listeners, our guest today is Michael Stutzke, longtime athletic director in the state of Florida, Hall of Fame athletic director, now retired. We're going to take that break, like I said, but please stay with us because we're coming back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame for their support of the podcast. Go to their website, vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check out their interactive touchscreen video consoles. It's a great way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the events, or your school's Hall of Fame. It's also a great way to just showcase your school's diverse history and your proudest moments. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. Make sure you mention the podcast. They'll give you a nice discount. Go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Bring your school's legacy to life. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest is Michael Stutzke. He's a certified master athletic administrator, retired Hall of Fame AD for the state of Florida. Michael, you took us up again through your college days at Villanova. You entered the Marine Corps. Share a little bit about your early career that led to your very long and successful career as an athletic director.
Well, when I got out of the Marine Corps, the number of companies were looking for junior military officers to go into their sales and marketing programs, and I was fortunate enough to be hired by Procter and Gamble, and that proved to be very invaluable to me. I spent a few years with them before being hired by the Berol Corporation as a manager. I worked in the Mid-Atlantic section of the United States, enjoyed it tremendously. It must have been about 1986 or so. My uncle, who owned citrus gift fruit shipping business in Florida, called me and said, "Your cousin doesn't want to buy the business. Would you be interested in coming back to Florida and taking over the family citrus business?" And I said, yes. I thought it would be a good change. I wanted to be a business owner. So actually, it was in 1985. And so I came back to Florida. And at the time, the family owned the tropical fruit shop in Palm Beach, Florida. It was the oldest gift fruit shipper of Florida citrus in the state of Florida. I enjoyed it, but I also had to endure citrus canker and freezes. And the next thing I knew, I was hearing of more and more citrus companies closing. So one night at dinner, my wife and I were just having one of those heart-to-hearts. And I said to her, what would you like to do with the rest of your life? And she said, I've always wanted to be a nurse. The boys are grown, are growing. And she says, what about you? And I said, I've always felt that I wanted to be a teacher. And she said, well, you should become a teacher. So I sold the business. And in 1990, I sat for my teaching certification exams. And in Vero Beach, Florida, where I had graduated high school, one of my early instructors, a gentleman by the name of Marion Bass, hired me as a civics teacher at Vero Beach Junior High. And he said, by the way, you're going to need to coach the soccer team. And I said, Mr. Bass, I never played soccer. He said, like I said, you're going to have to coach the soccer team. So I did my research along with another teacher. We worked with the soccer kids for a year. And then Bill Wilson, my track coach over at Vero Beach High School, said, there's an opening for cross-country coach. I know how much you enjoy it. Why don't you put your name in? I did, and I coached at Vero Beach High School up until 1994, boys and girls cross country, and then boys and girls track and field distance runners under Bill. In 1994, Indian River County was opening its second high school, Sebastian River. I interviewed to teach in the International Baccalaureate program and thought that I would go up there and at least put my hat in the ring to be the track coach, the head track coach. After I was hired, about a month later, Dr. Fran Adams, the founding principal, called me up and she said, how would you like to interview for the athletic director position? You've come recommended to us. We'd like to hear what you have to say. I said, I'd like to do that. So I did. And one of the questions they asked me is, how do you look at a student who is involved in sports? And I said, well, they're students first and they're athletes second. And the very first thing that I would do is look to open the school with a higher GPA than the FHSAA had on the books, which at the time was a 1.5. I've always felt that if a student didn't have at least a C average, they should be concentrating in the classroom. And they liked that. They hired me. And for the next 22 years, Sebastian River High School was my home.
Looking back at starting a brand new high school, I've been fortunate to be involved with a couple of those. What are some of the things that stick out for you coming in there as the athletic director?
I think that's a very interesting question. One of is trial by fire, especially if it's a brand new school. Ours was just that, a brand new school. I remember going out to the stadium after the grandstands were erected, and I didn't see any bathrooms. I asked the project foreman, where were the bathrooms going to go? And he says, they ran out of money. They took that off the plans. Well, I hadn't heard that. So I went into the principal. I said, Dr. Adams, it looks as though the stadium is going to be built without bathrooms and a concession stand. My point here is that ask a lot of questions going in, because in the end, I was told, you're the athletic director. That's your problem. You take care of it. So when we opened the stadium in August of 1994, there were 26 porta potties that were in the end zone. And I remember a lot of comments that night because we had around 4,000 people in that stadium and they were lined up to use porta potties. And the word was, whose idea was it to open a $26 million high school without bathrooms at the stadium? So the pitfalls, know your facility going in. If you're going to a school that's already established, hopefully you can establish a relationship with the individual that you're replacing so that they can kind of give you the ins and outs of what is working, what needs to be repaired, and then you can chart a course.
That's such a valuable point. Ask questions, do your research, as you're considering a job. Now, I've got to ask the question, how long did it take until you had permanent restrooms installed at that stadium?
Well, I always feel that I was very fortunate for a 10-year period to have a superintendent by the name of Roger Deering. Roger, as we both know, was executive director, excuse me, at FHSAA later in his career. But he recognized, because he came on board as the superintendent the year that we opened Sebastian River, that we needed to do something. So he sent me to Orlando to GE Modular, well, along with our facilities coordinator. And he said, take a look at these nice trailers that they have up there for restrooms. And so the second year, we had very nice restrooms that were GE Modular trailers. We had those for about 4 years. And then he sent me to Kissimmee High School to look at a building that he had built when he was over there. And he said, come back and tell me if you think that will work. And I came back. I said, Dr. Deering, it would be great. I'd like to have a few arches in the architecture to match the school. And I really like the idea of having the Spanish S tile that will match the rest of our campus. And with a real big smile, he said, well, Michael, I sent you over there to look at a building. He says, I give you one arch, but you're not going to get a barrel roof tile on the building. And I said, Dr. Deering, I'm grateful for whatever you will see that we can have. And he got that building built for us, and we were very grateful.
Yeah. And again, you want bathrooms, you need bathrooms, but if we can get that tile, if we can get that arch, it's all negotiation, right? Everything's negotiable. Okay.
Very true.
What a great story. I love it. Once again, for our listeners, our guest is Michael Stutzke, certified master athletic administrator, Hall of Fame athletic director here in Florida. We're going to take a break, but we're coming back. So please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We'd also like to thank Gipper for their support. Gipper is the official social media graphic solution for the Educational AD Podcast. And if you go to Gipper.com, their team is going to show you how to create world-class marketing content for your school's social media channel. Your students are on social media, and if you're not promoting your teams, celebrating their accomplishments, you're really missing out on a great opportunity. Gipper is used and trusted by over 3,000 high schools and colleges across the country. It's professional graphic design made simple. In fact, it's so simple, even I can use it. Go to Gipper.com, mention the podcast, they'll give you a nice discount. That's Gipper.com. We also want to say thank you to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com. Their team is going to show you how to set up and sell tickets online at your school, not just for athletic events, but things like school dances, school plays and concerts, even graduation. And here's the best part. Every school gets assigned a dedicated client success manager that's going to provide you hands-on support every step of the way. That's every step of the way. Go to hometownticketing.com to get started. It's digital ticketing that offers more. Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Michael, we have a lot of younger athletic directors that listen to the podcast and some older ones like me. And I think it's important for them to hear about the journey that we all take. You and I, we're both retired, we've got our CMAAs, but that just doesn't happen by accident. So share a little bit about your journey. How did you first hear about FIAAA and how'd you get involved with it down the road?
Okay. Well, I was fortunate living on the Treasure Coast in Florida, had a great network of fellow ADs. And frankly, I was struggling with a few things within athletics and within my program. And I reached out to a colleague, Danny Neinstein. He was at Port St. Lucie High School. I said, Danny, is there some symposium? Is there something that athletic directors can go to, be part of? And he stopped me mid-sentence and he said, you need to become a member of